Conversations with the Mind podcast, where we explore consciousness through conversations with interesting people. Our mission is to engage the collective mind piece by piece to bring greater clarity of mind to our listeners locally and across the planet, and to contribute to broaden the shared experiential knowledge and wisdom of existence.
Be good. No, it's pretty good. Baby, if you have something to say, I really want you to come and say it.
What's up, YouTube? All right, folks, welcome back to Conversations with the Mind. I'm your host, as always, Shane Lemaster, and we're here with Neil Yazdandoost, and I cannot pronounce your name. How do you say it again? Kamilla. And have you taken his last name?
Not yet.
Okay, so these two...
But she's gonna.
Yeah, these two just got married today. So this is episode 59 of Conversations with the Mind. And yeah, they just got married today, and my good friend Neil, who I haven't seen for like...
10 years, man. Yeah.
When we went to college. And we'll have lots of fun stories about that. But yeah, it's great seeing you. And then you just hit me up randomly and said, hey, I'm coming back to Colorado and I'm getting married and I'd love to have you celebrate. So it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time. And you're married to a wonderful friend of mine. Yeah, let's get into it.
Well, thank you for congratulating us.
Course.
Thanks for having us. And I've never really been that good of a person when it comes to the whole keeping in touch with friends, even though I think about them all the time, and we have all this social media and all these phones, and we can reach out and tell someone anytime, yet I'm still terrible at it. But you always have your group of friends that no matter what, you're always thinking about them, and they're on your mind. And there was nothing weird about this. It's not like we saw each other and was like, awkward, what have you been up to? That's really cool. It's just picking up exactly where we left off, and it's really nice to have friends like that in your life, and everyone has something like that.
I don't even remember where we left off. Like, we graduated school, and then we all just kind of parted ways and did our own thing. You went into the military, and I come to find out today that you haven't left the military. That astounded me. I was actually going to get you really high on the podcast today, and then just rehash what we, like you said, pick right back up where we left off from college. But found out you're still in the military, so I couldn't get you baked, so I just smoked a whole bowl to myself, and feeling pretty good.
Good.
And glad you guys are both here. So
yeah, thank you.
Before we even started, how about I start off the podcast? You guys haven't heard it yet, so the first question is the same for everybody. I ask everybody the same question, and then after that, we're free to talk about whatever we want. And I really want to get into meditation because you were just talking about that. But the first question I always ask is, what does the phrase "conversations with the mind" mean to you? That's the name of the podcast, mm-hmm. Conversations with the Mind. And the audience knows what it means to me, and I've had, over like 50 guests on this show, and they all put it out there on the line and kind of put part of themselves into the podcast. So what does that phrase mean to you? When you hear it, what comes up is like visuals in your mind or memories maybe? What comes up?
Well, I just think more along the line of thinking. The most amount of conversation you're going to have is with yourself in your head. Every single decision you're about to make, every single experience that is about to take place, has taken place, is in the middle of taking place. Like right now, I'm being conscious in my mind. I'm having a conversation. I have to think to myself, how should I answer this question? You're always talking to yourself, and everyone has a completely different perspective of the same scenario. We can look at the same object, but if you're seeing it from one angle, it's completely different than the angle that I'm seeing it at. Mm-hmm. And when we put our collective minds together, we might be able to get the whole image into a more finite definition.
I like that. Have you ever heard the old parable about the blind man and the elephant?
I can't say that I have. No.
So, and I'm gonna put my own little spin on it, but so there's this group of blind men, okay. Right? And this teacher leads an elephant into the room and says, "Okay, now I want each of you blind men to describe to me what I brought into the room." So they all reach out and they're feeling around, and they all are touching the elephant on a different part of its body. One person's touching his trunk, the other person's touching his side, one's touching his tail, one's touching his ear, and as they begin to describe it, they're like, oh, well, this elephant is certainly, round because I feel like I can wrap my hands around it all the way, and it's like a snake, that's its shape. And another one was like, well, no, it's definitely not that. It's flat, and it's big and round, and it's floppy because he's touching the ear. And another guy says, no, it's smooth, and then it has this tuft of hair at the end, right, because he's touching the tail. And it's all because they all have these different perspectives on what's actually going on in the room, what's actually happening. But by bringing their collective perspectives to the table, you get enough blind men touching that elephant, you're going to be able to accurately describe what that elephant is, right? Because everybody's perspective plays this part in putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So your perspective coming to the podcast and talking about your life and your experience helps put one of those pieces of the puzzle into what this collective knowledge base that we all of us humans have, right? Your perspective, just as important. It's just one more piece, right? Mine is just one piece. And I think the more we can bring these perspectives together, the clearer the picture is going to be as like, what the hell is going on this planet? What are we humans doing? Like, we're certainly not here to do what we're doing, make money and kill the planet. We're here to do something really special. We have consciousness for a reason. And no one of us individually knows what that is, but I think collectively we can put these pieces together to find some answer.
Well, what you actually just said is that we're not here doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're not out here supposed to kill each other and just take all this money for ourselves. I very much agree with you on that. And I think that's a perspective that I've been actually thinking about a lot more recently. Very few people realize, because of how white I am, because my mother, she's German, my mother's side of the family is white. But a lot of people think with my last name that I'm just German or Dutch or Russian. And my last name is Yazdandoost, for anyone that's interested. It doesn't sound like it would be a Middle Eastern last name. And it is. And my dad grew up in Iran. His entire family grew up in Iran. And they were Islam. They were Muslims. They practiced Islam. And I'm in the military now. Like you mentioned, I'm still in the military. And it's amazing how many people will talk to me about these dirty Muslims and how Islam is this, that, the other. And they won't realize that that's my family they're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I'll let them go. And there was actually a guy I worked with. He was saying that, just let him go. He said his whole thing. And I said, would you believe it or not that, my dad is from Iran. He's not a practicing, he doesn't practice Islam anymore or anything like that, but that's how we grew up. And I was like, he was the biggest proponent for my sister, who actually just recently got out of the military, and myself joining the military. He was one of the biggest proponents for us doing that. And it just went to go to show him, like, what you're hearing about all these people isn't necessarily true. Mm-hmm. It's you get these ideas because these are the things that are being forced into your head.
Right, and the same thing twisted around in all the media and everything from everybody else's opinions. Even the media has its own opinion and wants to put its own spin on it too, depending on what station you're watching.
Exactly, and when it comes to the whole, we're not here to just take money. One of the things I like to say, actually, what that whole story was about was, I would say, 99% of the world, 99.9% of the world, they just want to live a good quality of life. They want to be able to afford a house, shelter, food, and I'd say have money for the savings account, have money for retirement, but realistically have money so they can take 2 vacations a year without having to worry about how tight the budget's going to be. And I'd say that's most people in the world. They're not really just trying to take everything from themselves. They just want to live a good life. But that other percent will take whatever they can from whoever they can, and we support that, and we support them.
Well, and even if we don't actively support them, we're, second-handedly supporting them by not standing up, and saying that there's something wrong with it. I forgot who said this thing, but it's like the most evil men on the planet are not evil men, but those who refuse to stop evil men, or something like that.
I know exactly what you're talking about. A buddy of mine that was actually in the Navy, he's out now. He's going to school for physical therapy, doing really good stuff. He was taking an ethics class, and he was telling me malfeasance. I think that's malfeasance versus non. I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically you go out there and you do bad things that we can say is bad. But the other one was you're not doing anything bad, but you're not stopping bad from happening.
Right,
and
exactly.
that is contributing to the overall bad.
Absolutely.
If you put a numerical value on -1 for the person that's doing something bad, a 0 for the person that's not doing anything, and a +1 for the people that are out there doing good, then you could actually get in a real equation of where are we as a species.
Yeah, it's never binary like that. It's never one or the other, black or white. You know, nothing is. Everything's
Exactly.
only grace. So I want to hear from you too, Kamilla. What does the phrase "conversations with the mind" mean to you?
So that's a very interesting, but I had one time a question. We have a mind because we
Here, scoot a little bit closer.
So we have a mind because we experience seeing, touching, but what about the people who born and they blind and they don't hear? What they going to think because they don't experience the life? Do they dreams? So this is always in my mind, what they experience from the life. So how they can, what they going, what they think, because we think everything what we experience,
Yeah.
touching,
Wait, I'm
hearing,
gonna move this
smell.
over just a little bit. Yeah, I think a lot of what our mind is made up of for us, because we have all of our senses, is mostly visual, right? We make up what we think of the world and what reality is based off what we see. And people who are blind probably see it differently. You know, people who are deaf would experience it differently, but they all have consciousness,
No,
right?
no,
They
no,
all have
you
mind.
didn't understand.
Okay.
Have people who are deaf and blind,
Mhm.
that totally peace and the darkness because they
Mhm.
don't see, they don't hear. So, but they experience
they
of the
feel.
life. Yeah, that's the only what they can do, but nothing else.
But even people who are like in a coma and can't hear or see, well, some people in comas report hearing, you know, people in the room talking, but if you couldn't hear or see or feel anything, right, there was no sensation from the body at all, but the brain's still going, so you still have a mind. Yeah, I'm wondering, that's probably a lot like what meditation is, right? Just totally disconnected from the information that's coming from the body, right? Then it's just pure mind.
So maybe they are luckier than we are.
Maybe. You know, they're kind of forced into it. They don't have a choice to be in that state, whereas we can choose to develop that. We can choose to meditate and be, you know, be present in the moment and experience these things, or we can choose not to. We can choose to sit on the couch and watch TV all day and stuff our face with Cheetos and just turn off to what is reality. These folks don't have a choice. I mean, they're kind of forced into it, but yeah, that's a good point. You know, that might be like that type of mindset might be what we're trying to achieve through things like meditation and taking psychedelics and, you know, getting drunk or getting high. We're escaping something.
Well, I mean, you can lie with your looks and you can lie with your words.
Mhm.
And if you don't hear and if you don't see, then, I mean, you can't lie to touch or smell or taste. Think about all the charming people out there. Ted Bundy, there's like 50 million documentaries about him on Netflix right now. And
Sorry, I'm
what's-
just gonna adjust this.
no, that's
super
fine,
quick.
that's fine. But what
Move
Ted
this
Bundy got
to-
super popular for
Yeah.
was that he was the first prominent serial killer that he didn't fit the bill. It terrified people because he looked so charming and he was so charismatic. He's not the guy, and all the people and all the women that were saying that, no, he couldn't do it. He's just too handsome.
Mhm.
He couldn't do it because he's too handsome. That doesn't even make sense. So when it comes to looks and words, like, you can use looks to deceive people, just like you can use words. When you're feeling, you can't lie to that. Like, if I think you're lying or something like that, and I'm touching your heart, and I notice that it's going faster, or something's happening, then you can't really lie about those ones.
Mhm.
Those are true. I don't know. That might have been a little bit of a stretch, but
No, but I think you bring up an interesting point. Like, without our ability to take what's in the mind and like put it into action with touching or hearing or seeing it, like, then what is the conversation up there? Like, what do you think about?
Yeah, that's what. And what do you dream about? Because
Yeah.
we dream about what we experience, but people who cannot see, who cannot hear, they don't have a life experience. How did you, for example, they get sick? How do you know they have a pain? How they can tell they have a pain? And how do you know? How you can tell them don't be scared? So, you know, the connection is, so they are so alone. Darkness, peace, and then I don't know. I think if I think about this, I think I get scared.
Yeah, a lot of fear too.
Yeah, because it's just like I don't know. This is to me it's so interesting. Really, I would like to know what they dream about.
No, that's true.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't know what they dream. I think they do have dreams.
Must
People
have,
have.
must have.
I think they've reported that they have dreams. But like my area of interest right now for my PhD is psychedelics and psychedelic assisted therapies and things like that. And actually, there have been some studies done with blind people who've never seen color. They'll take psychedelics and then they will experience color inside their mind, but they don't know what it is. You know, and when they describe it, you know, the person sitting there listening to the description knows that it's, you know, they're describing red, they're describing green, but the person having the experience is just like seeing all these colors that they've never seen before. So it's opening up different pathways. So I'm wondering, yeah, is some of that, you know, because in Buddhism we believe in past lives too and things like that. So in past lives, I mean, certainly you can't be blind in all of your lifetimes. So maybe you have this memory of what color looks like or what a beautiful mountain looks like, and maybe as a blind person you may dream about that, right? Because some people will say dreams are your consciousness leaving your body and going and traveling and can go back in time or forward in time and do all these things. But maybe, yeah, maybe these people have like imprinted memories of colors and images. I don't know. That's a very interesting question, though.
Well,
And I think it's very, if you are a mother and you have a child like that, it's, you have to be always in like fear, because you don't know what's going on with your child, how you can help. Because cannot tell you now where it hurts. If it's crying, you don't know what's going on. So it's difficult to find out. I don't know how they can learn, how you can teach them, because they don't see, they don't hear. So
yeah, well, if they can still feel things, I think you could probably teach them based on like tapping the skin, like 1 for yes, 2 for no, and teach them like a language or an alphabet using sensation. Yeah, I've always wondered, how do blind people learn to read Braille, right?
but they can usually
Without
hear.
Without seeing, true. Yeah,
So
they
that's
can
why
hear.
they don't. So it's.
So yeah, they either have one or the other. So
But who have none
yeah.
of
well,
them.
I mean, I kind of feel guilty for not having read more about Helen Keller all of a sudden, because she was blind, deaf, and she couldn't speak. Dumb is the word for it. But there's a whole book on her, so I'm a little bit more interested in reading about it now. That's a difficult life.
For sure. But she's bringing up a point that maybe, yeah, I mean, yes, for sure, it's difficult when they're trying to interact with the way our society is. But,
They still have a mind.
right, but is it
Yeah. So
is
what
it
they
less
think about
difficult
it.
in the mind, maybe? Maybe they don't have to worry about seeing terrible things or hearing terrible things or watching terrible shows on TV, right? Like, we're talking about nutrition at dinner, right? I believe a part of your nutrition is what you take in visually, you know, what you listen to on the radio. Are you listening to crap and, you know, rap that's saying bitch this and bitch that, and, you know, are you listening to that? That's part of your nutrition. Or are you listening to things that are making you happy? Are you watching things that are positive, or are you watching like the news that's negative all the time? If I'm taking in that kind of visual food, I'm going to be way like more negative, you know. So maybe they are lucky in some way in that they don't have to put up with all of this crap around us all the time, all the messages coming to us, like you were talking about, like the conditioning going on. I don't know how it is in your country, but when you come to our country, you were mentioning on TV, you start to see these ads for medicine, right? It's like, if you're feeling this, come talk to your doctor, and we'll give you this pill, you know. And there's only 3 countries in the whole world that do that, where that's legal. Every other country, it's illegal to have those ads on TV. And so I'm interested in what it's like for you coming to a country like this, where, you know, we live here, we think that this is normal, but we're not doing a lot of normal things over here, you know.
Yeah, so it is true. It's a big difference how I was see. Of course, you come from Europe, you think, you learn, oh, America is great and freedom, and I was believe this. So after, when I was starting to come, first learn the language, and I realized that when I did see, like, really, I traveling, like, but I have not medication, but here everybody like taking headache and then taking like not even one, like 5 or I don't know. And after I just talk to people, yes, I start to take this when I was that age and that age. So here, how I see to taking medication is very normal. But how we see in Europe, if you take medication, you sick, so you are not 100% healthy person. That's how we see it.
Yeah.
So, and here is normal, you taking medication, and how you said in promotion, you have problem with this, or just take this, and you can get easily medication because this is, and I see also brainwash how they say people eat this because it's very healthy. So they make you sick because the biggest money making to selling drugs. So they need sick people. So Americans, most people, they think they eat healthy, and they poison themselves every day, and they don't know, they didn't realize, and because they be brainwashed with the promotion.
Right.
Drink milk is very good for you, cereal is vitamins, and but the other way, I think we live in now in the world, in the time that we have internet and you can find out the truth. So it's everybody, if a little bit one, so the knowledge is free now. You don't have to study, you don't have to go to the school. So now everybody can know the truth. You have to little bit look to it, and then you can find out what's the truth. But
there's a lot of bullshit out there too.
Yeah, that's as well. But so
how do you sort through what's real information and what's just, you know, another promotion trying to sell you something? I
would say try on your body. I did try a lot of diet in my life, eating every 3 hours, eating meat, and then yeah, it's really, of course, we all have a different body type. Your body is different, but if you really think about it, and you can more see how big corporations work. So, for example, if you see who sponsor that kind of diet, if you see Burger King, Nestle, blah blah blah, you already should know that's not true, because who sponsor, you know?
Right. Yeah,
so
if the corporations are paying for the research, you always have to question that research.
Yeah, after already, you know, so seriously, if it's Burger King say that it's after a sponsor, is something already not okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and this is, you can always see who is sponsor, like all of this, what they brought up is healthy or not.
And what I've noticed too is, and yeah, I mean, you've been overseas quite a bit with your work, but when I went to Europe, I noticed that, you know, they eat a lot differently than we do here. Whereas here we want as much as possible, as fast as possible. You go to Europe and the portion sizes are much smaller. You know, they may eat more times during the day, maybe like we call it grazing behavior. Whereas here we eat like big meals and a lot of like added sugars and things like that. And you guys have a lot more like different kinds of seeds, like heirloom seeds. Like we have Monsanto over here.
That's right. We have a lot of, well, Europe won't even accept our meat. We can't sell meat to them because they don't like
really?
The antibiotics we put in, the hormones and stuff like that. So they won't even accept the meat. So even if you go to like McDonald's or Burger King over there, like the meat is different. It is legitimately. I'm not saying it does taste different, but I'm not saying it's good for you. But I will say that if you had the choice between a European McDonald's and an American one, the European one is going to be slightly less bad for you. But I would also say that a lot of times it's a lifestyle change too, because they are a lot more active. There's a lot more walking involved. There's a lot more public transportation, so it's not going to take you straight to the doorstep that you need to go. Of course, a lot of people have cars there, but
a lot less people have cars than they do over here.
Absolutely, because
think
about the HOV lane. Everyone driving to work every day, and Colorado's not nearly as bad. I've lived in Houston, and I've definitely been in LA for their rush hour, which you're literally going 3 miles an hour. Everyone is in their own car, myself included. I'm not saying I'm not part of the problem, because I am. But it's hard to complain about traffic, because if you're in traffic, you are traffic.
That's true. That's true. Sorry. To interrupt. You said if you're in traffic, you are traffic. And right away, I was brought back to your initial question about being in the mind. So on the podcast, I talk a lot about this idea of collective consciousness. So you're an individual consciousness. You're an individual consciousness. I'm an individual consciousness. My dogs are individual consciousness. But is there a piece of all of us that is always interconnected? We're all tied in like through this network. And you said if you're in traffic, you're part of traffic. So if you're in consciousness, if you're experiencing this thing that we're all experiencing, then maybe we are all a part of something much bigger than we all think we are, right?
We absolutely are.
And I feel that's what most religions call God. Some people will put a person's face on it, or put a bunch of different gods out there, right? But they're all talking about the same thing, which is what connects us all, right? And not only me to you and to my dogs, but us to the plants outside. What connects me to every atom in this room. We're all connected in vibration. We're all connected in frequency. We're all tied into some network. And your traffic comment just reminded me of that, bringing it back to being in the mind. But if we're all in it, then we're all participating in something, right? And if we're participating, we can choose to take away from it or put something back into it and make it better. Just like we choose to take part in society, we choose to take part in relationships, we choose to take part in all sorts of things, and we can either give to it and make it better, or we can take from it and make ourselves better. But I think that's the same with consciousness too, and mind, collective mind too. We have a choice. We can take from it, take from other people, or give back.
That's accurate. But I mean, we're not just part of the collective consciousness of the people that are alive now. We're also a collective consciousness of all of our ancestors that came before us too, because we're all offspring from someone. So your family values are different from my family values, different from Camilla's family values, Callie's. Everyone's perception, like we're talking about, perception is different. But how did your perceptions become? It was the experience that you had, what you were taught, and so all these different viewpoints. But we are all absolutely connected together. But it's not just with the people that we're physically with right now. It's all the people that came before, and we're contributing to all the people that are coming after. And it's about trying to get that net good. We want it to go towards the positive side. Let's make a better world. And it just takes the individuals. Like, I believe that the 99% of people in the world just want to be good people. But that's not enough. You actually have to fight for it. You can't just allow the bad people to control your lives. Like, this corporation is bad. Citibank. Citibank was terrible in the mortgage crisis. They're still one of the biggest banks. They helped destroy the economy for years. They ruined...
We bailed them out, right?
Yeah, well, we had to bail them out. Like, legitimately... Because that's what I studied in college was economics. If they didn't get bailed out, the economic overspill would have been horrendous.
It would have trickled down to everybody.
Everybody. Yeah. The sad part about that, but we're kind of getting off, is that there weren't any regulations put on what they could do with that money. So what they ended up doing with that money is they took the money for free, and they took the 0% interest rate from the federal bank, and they turned around and they bought government bonds for like 3%. They took free money, gave it back to the government at an interest rate. That blew my mind. But coming back to Citibank, and they're just an example, is if you don't like the company, why are you still supporting them? Why do you still bank with them?
Right.
The only reason they have money is because you're giving it to them.
Right.
Like, pull your money out of them. You don't support them? Pull your money out. They'll disappear. You don't like the way they're doing business? Stop supporting them.
Yeah, I tell people that in this country we have to like vote with our dollars.
We do.
Right? Like if you are against Starbucks, stop going to Starbucks. You're just giving them your money, right?
Yeah.
I after that bank thing fell through in 2008. It was, right?
It was 2008, 2009. I mean, I was getting ready to graduate college. It was rough out there.
Yeah, I jumped ship from like Wells Fargo. Closed all those big bank accounts. Now I only bank with like local credit unions and things like that. Just because I feel like I can trust those people a little bit more. I walk in and they know my name, they know my face. They
have to earn your business.
Yeah, but you go into these big banks and they're just trying to pinch every penny off of you. I think they tried to even charge me a fee for leaving their bank.
I bet they did. A
Wells
fee to
Fargo.
leave the bank, and then they started coming up with a charge for you to actually be able to physically walk into the store and talk to a live teller.
What?
Yeah, no, that's serious. I think it was Bank of America when I was living in Houston. I saw an account with them, and they came up with this thing saying that I had opted out of the $12.50. I don't remember how much it was, but the fact that it was any monetary amount, that if I wanted to go in there and deposit a check through an actual bank teller, that there was a monthly fee that I'd have to pay. So, I mean, obviously I just switch it to, I'm just going to make my deposits with the ATM.
Right. They don't have to pay the ATM.
No, like, it's free. It's free,
Right.
If you want to do it that way, but you won't talk to an actual human being. So it's going towards that automation process, too, so that they can eventually phase out the bank tellers, or at least not have to absorb the cost of employing people.
Have you ever seen the movie Idiocracy?
I love that movie.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie?
I
don't know.
highly doubt it.
You have to show her that movie. So this movie is all about. I think it was made by the creators of Beavis and Butthead.
It was Mike Judge.
So it's all about what the world culture is going to be like if America like took over the world, pretty much, and like what it's going to be like in 100 years. So like our president is a professional wrestler, which is actually pretty close to what it is now.
Right?
Actually,
Entertainer.
Donald Trump
it's
was
an entertainer.
Donald Trump was part of WWE or something for a
Actually,
couple
he
matches.
was, yeah.
He did a couple matches.
Oh,
So it just came true. Okay, so and then other things are like outsourced, right? Like everything is taken care of by computer screen. If you go get a tattoo, you stick your arm in this hole and it just just tattoos your arm.
Yeah.
Like everything is just automated like that. Your couch in the living room also has a toilet. And you have like 100 channels up on your thing. It's ridiculous.
Well,
but you have to see it.
Look,
you're gonna laugh and be like, yeah. That's
for
what
anyone
I'm
listening in right now, I'll just say, after the podcast, just get on YouTube, just look up the introduction scene to Idiocracy. Make up your mind and see if you want to see the movie. It makes good points. Mike Judge is not a dumb person. Mike Judge has never been a dumb person. He's a very smart person. He has a really good, dry way of showing some kind of mundane thing as being hilarious, but there has been a tremendous shift in what made America so great compared to what we see now. Is that we used to prize intelligence being the powerhouse, the economic powerhouse of the world because of our industry. And we have it so good that people stopped working so hard because, everything is so good. We're an entertainment-based society.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're all just looking for a way to placate ourselves and dull our senses and dull our minds and enjoy ourselves, because we should constantly be lounging about.
Yep, just like this with our screens. Beep, beep,
Oh,
beep,
yeah.
beep, beep, beep.
Download 15 games a day. I have a guy I work with. He's a good guy, but he'll go through 5 different games a day. He'll just download one and be like, I don't like this one. Oh, it's just nonstop entertainment.
Yeah.
Nonstop entertainment. And typically the loudest person in the room has the least amount to say. And you'll see a lot of people, and they follow the loudest voice in the room because they don't really have thoughts of their own. So you have all these idiots convincing more people to be like them because they're fun, they're entertaining, they know how to have a good time. In the opening scene, watch that. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty exaggerated, but the idiot in question that keeps breeding, he's doing legitimately fun-looking stuff.
Right, but in the beginning of the movie, or when it first came out, right?
Yeah.
When the movie came out, it seemed like like those examples are way too extreme. That'll never happen. And then now I think the movie's like 10 or 15 years old, and like some of these things are actually coming true, and you're like, oh my god, we are so screwed, you know? Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, I was reminded too, when you walked into the studio, when you first walked in, you saw this picture of Bruce Lee here. This is my favorite picture of him, by the way. I think he looks so badass with his mustache.
Yeah, I never saw.
Right.
I wanted to say I never saw him with that. I was like, first for a moment, maybe I'm wrong, but it's must him.
Yeah.
From the
Oh
beginning.
yeah, he looks amazing there. So, this is what I'm reminded of. Even though he was Chinese,
Doesn't matter.
I'm still reminded of
Collective conscious.
Of classic American culture, in which, you know, all this this new stuff is built on, right? Like when I think of classic American culture, I think of like John Wayne and Bruce Lee and actors like that. Like that's the media that people would consume, and you know, it seemed like there was more honor out there among everybody. You know, actors were putting out more positive examples and also negative examples. There were a lot of movies where women were getting slapped around and stuff, but you know, that was some cultural things that had to change over time as well. But that's what it reminded me of, is this picture. This is actually a picture of my grandma too. She's wearing her judo gi back in the 1950s.
That is awesome.
Right? That's one of my favorite pictures of her. So she's a martial artist way back in the day too.
That was not
Back
a
when
traditional.
men were
That
men.
was not a traditional role for a woman to
Mm-mm.
fit.
No, not at all. Well, and it wasn't traditional to be practicing
Eastern or Asian arts.
right, martial arts from over there.
Yeah, especially at that time period.
Some of our coolest presidents, though, in the U.S. have, I looked this up, most of our cool presidents have been martial artists in some way, like wrestlers or judo
Abraham Lincoln,
fighters.
Hall of Fame.
Yep, wrestlers,
Wrestler.
judo, some of them were boxers. And that's something that I've thought that this country needs, is like no more presidents that don't know how to fight. Like, there's not going to be any more war in this world. Like, if one country hates another country, the two presidents are going to fight, and whoever wins. Right, and we would be screwed because we have Donald Trump. I think Vladimir Putin from Russia would clean house.
Everybody.
He's legit martial artist.
He is.
So our next president needs to be somebody who can fight. I think that's a good idea.
Well, I mean, I think it's a lot easier to put someone else's life on the line than your own.
Oh yeah, and you take orders from the president himself,
Of course.
you know, down the chain. So
Well, I mean, that's
how does that feel, taking orders from somebody, even if you don't like believe in that the decisions they're making are right? Like, that's got to be so hard.
It is. No, that is a very valid point, and it is. It's. Do you remember my freshman year when I was in Air Force ROTC?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I dropped out of the program because I was going through that whole process of, I don't necessarily agree with what's going on, and that was me making my decision. I don't have to re-enlist in the military.
Right.
My contract is up in 2021. I'm probably going to re-enlist. I enjoy what I'm doing, and it's not like President Trump is telling me to go kill babies or do all these horrible things. Like, I have my job, we have our responsibilities, and we tend to be utilized in very sanctioned ways. We're not just a personal army for him. He can't just do whatever he wants. I mean, it still has to go through channels. Yes, he can declare war. Actually, no, I apologize. He cannot declare war. That takes an act of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Like
But
Vietnam
he can deploy
wasn't that.
troops with
He can-
executive
that's
action
true. But
against, you know, things that the American people might not. You know, I don't think the American people agree with most of the conflict that we're creating overseas, you know, but we just allow it to happen, probably because we don't get to see it very often. So that's another reason why I'm glad you're here, is you can speak to that too.
well, we always have a nice little cover story.
Right.
I love the summer blockbuster topic. Racism. People shouldn't trust someone that isn't their race. Then I remember one summer it was don't trust the opposite gender. It was all about rapes, and we just had that not too long ago with the whole Me Too thing, which is a whole another topic about not trusting one another. And it's not about trusting anyone equally. It's not what they're trying to convey. It's just don't trust anyone. Only trust us.
Right.
Only trust the people that are feeding you this information. We're the only ones here on your side. Like, I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, which is a very diverse city.
That's an awesome base.
Do you? Because I hated the traffic.
No, I mean the base down there in Norfolk is awesome.
Naval Station Norfolk?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I worked there for
nice
4 years with my last squadron, and Black Lives Matter was going on when I was there. And like I said, it's a pretty racially diverse city. I didn't have any effect on it. I didn't feel like I was being persecuted as, and especially because I'm a bald white man. And I never really got targeted as if I was some kind of white supremacist. I was just a person. And I don't know what it's like to be black, because guess what? I'm not.
Yep.
But I would ask my friends that are black if they were getting any kind of thing like that, because it is about perspective, and I like hearing people's perspectives. Because everyone is going through a struggle that you might not know. And no one in the whole base was really feeling like it was as big of a deal as it was being made out in the media. Which is, to me, more real life. Is that a lot of these issues aren't nearly as big as the media is making it out to be.
Sure, and certain issues are way bigger than the media makes them out to be. Like, the media will minimize things, too. You know, just as much as they blow things out of proportion. And I don't know how news is internationally, but I know that within our country, like, there's very tight controls on what people are being fed. You know, it's like I feel like there is like a puppet master up there, like showing the American people exactly what we want them to believe. You know, this is what we're going to tell them today is going on around the world. Very few news outlets, I think, actually show you what's actually going on. Or even ask other countries what their perception of America is and America's actions. You know, we just only see it from our perspective, which I think is terribly damaging to other cultures.
But for me, I see a big difference, like in Europe, is you are not a hero if you are in the army, because you're going, so we see that you're going the half world to travel and kill people. That's not a hero. If somebody come to your country, wanna kill you, of course, you wanna save your home.
Right.
But like so it's you going to other country. It's like, I don't know, we don't see that like a hero. But in America, this is a big deal. Oh, you are a hero because you are in the army.
Movies, yeah.
So in Europe, you don't want to enjoy the army at all. You don't want to hurt people. You not cool. That is not like in America, it's cool to be a gangster. Oh, I'm a gangster. I'm selling drugs, and like rap is a good music. Like speaking bad words. So I don't know, I think is here I don't know, of course the politics, they push them to do that, but I don't know if you could do that in Europe, like in my country, to say people go there and kill these people because they bad. I don't know they would do that or not, but I don't think they would be so much angry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely in our culture, like we have like classic movies like Rambo.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where like the military person is the
absolutely.
hero,
Yeah.
you know? And so all when I was growing up as a kid, like me and my little brother would play that we were soldiers all the time.
Yeah,
that's what we grow up playing, you know, conflict, you know, and then so it makes sense why we would view them as heroes here. So if they're not heroes, then what are they viewed like in Europe? Like if they're not heroes, then what are they instead?
Nobody really want to enjoy the army, so it doesn't even.
Yeah, true.
They don't even. So they have to go, everybody. Yeah. And now I don't. So
I don't even see many European countries even involved in conflict away from their homelands anyway, right? So when I picture European soldiers, I immediately picture like World War I or World War II, where they're literally defending their homes where they're from, right? That's when you see Europeans fight.
Yeah.
Is defending their home. But I mean, these days I don't know. I don't see Europeans as much as Americans like intervening away from home.
Yeah, not really.
That's something I like about Jesse Ventura. Do you like him? You know who he is?
Don't know who he is.
You don't know who Jesse Ventura is?
I apologize, but
Have you seen the movie Predator? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
You know what? Actually, I have not.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm terrible. I haven't seen it.
Anyway, Jesse Ventura is an ex-Navy SEAL. Lives in
Like
Mexico
real life?
now. Yeah.
Okay.
Lives in Mexico now, but he was in the movie Predator.
Perfect.
And he was governor of Minnesota, and the only reform candidate to ever win.
All right.
So anyway, he had this presidential campaign, and didn't go very well. But he wanted to pull all soldiers, American soldiers, back from any foreign outposts or bases. I don't know how.
Bring them all home.
Right.
Yeah, I understand
We've
that.
heard that a lot from a lot of different presidents, but he was the first one I believed.
But tactically, it's not necessarily the best thing. Like,
Absolutely not.
We spend the most amount of money on the military. We have probably the most superior capabilities. And I'm not saying that because I'm biased. I'm saying that because I think that, objectively speaking, we have the most advanced military.
And we still could, even if we spent half as much.
I don't know if that's true. See, now that's the thing is, I don't know. Here, okay, you know what? Talking about half as much.
I think half.
Let's talk about pay cuts. They talk about, here's how much we can afford to pay military members. Oh, a 2% raise. That's so tremendous. It is a lot. There's a lot of people in the military. That does add up. But I was telling you earlier, avoid things that say military grade, because military grade means that there's a contractor that manufactures this one particular component. And when it breaks, you can legally only get a replacement from this one kind. We'll get a screw that you could go to Home Depot and pay 5 cents for. We literally had a screw, and it's only good for 400 flight hours. $125 to replace one screw, and there's 80 of them in that panel. And you're talking about cutting money. Like, you want to talk about cutting money? Like, how about if any competitor can make that part, we can buy it. That screw should be 15 cents.
Right, and cut
$125.
Yeah.
That's insanity. Like, so you're talking about cutting money. Yeah, we could save a lot if we didn't have someone that had some kind of affiliation that awarded their best friend the contract to manufacture this thing. It's just incredibly asinine. We have a part actually on a piece of gear that we've been working on for a while right now. That it's a switch that has resistors in it, and as you move the pendant up, it adds more resistance. When you move it down, it adds more resistance than on the negative side of the voltage. So the manufacturer gave us a quote saying it was going to be $32,000 to replace that one part. It's like, that should replace the whole test set. And we're still working on it, trying to get down to a reasonable number. But that's insanity. Like, I could manufacture one of these for probably $150. So, just go to a local CC mill, and then I could use my soldering skills to put a 10 ohm resistor on each side of the slide.
Sure.
Done. So,
yeah, and
money.
I mean, you mentioned, maybe not pulling everybody back would be a good idea, but a lot of our military is devoted to maintaining,
peace.
Yeah, more
around the world.
That's what they say, maintaining peace, but maintaining presence, maintaining bases in strategic places, so that if something does happen, then we're in a good place to react to it.
Which is smart.
Yeah,
I
absolutely
think
smart.
tactically, it's very smart.
No, smart, but it's also misused, like a lot of different things.
Of course.
Like almost everything is. It can be exploited. It can be used by the wrong people for the wrong reasons, or it can be used for the right reasons, for good things, for humanitarian work. Those military.
And we do a lot of humanitarian work.
But
by the way.
I mean, think about like those military lines of transportation that can get 10,000 troops on the ground within 48 hours. You could use those same methods to get 50,000 tons of supplies to people who are starving to death, in the same area. So I'm saying like these
Funding.
these technologies, these methods can be used for good, or they can be used for not so good things.
Absolutely, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about funding. Is this humanitarian effort worth our time? And typically, we're going to say no. We'll leave it up to the Red Cross. We'll leave it up to.
Right, but they don't have the money to do that.
I get that. World Health Organization. We'll do it. We'll leave it for FEMA. We'll leave it for whoever else. It's a matter of what we think is important. And
Right,
is there enough media coverage? Is there enough media coverage on this particular event? Like,
who's we though? When you say what we think is important,
I'm talking about America overall. Like,
I don't
they have
think
to
America
support it.
overall thinks it's most important for us to be fighting others. I think most of us think it's more important to be doing peaceful work or humanitarian work. I mean, I could be wrong.
I don't think America.
There's a lot of evil.
Here's the
people
problem:
out
is I don't think really America cares.
there. You're right.
As long as
so then
you
we
have
is not
football,
America.
basketball, baseball,
So then America's silence is the we
movies,
who's not doing anything. But then who's pulling the strings? Who's
people that have the most to gain.
yeah,
Because-
exactly. Giving the contracts to their friends and things.
Yeah, talking about nutrition. Who's backing the study? If Burger King and McDonald's are backing the study, then it's going to benefit them the most.
If Halliburton is backing
Oh man,
the
shit.
study,
What wasn't it?
the most money.
Wasn't it during Bush Jr.'s presidency that Halliburton was awarded all rights to rebuilding Afghanistan?
Something like that.
Yeah, and
Or Iraq.
isn't
or
it
something.
Dick Cheney one of the primary shareholders
Yep.
of Halliburton? So it's like,
Big
so
scandals.
billions and billions and billions of dollars. You just literally handed yourself billions of dollars. It doesn't even mean that you have to do the job right or well.
Nope.
You're just the only person that can do it. That's giving a monopoly to someone.
Yep, just like the guy who manufactures the screw.
Just like the guy that
He
manufactures
has a
the screw.
monopoly on it.
Yeah, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So it's the good old boy system. It's the good old boy system.
Well, our system is too stuck on military.
Power.
Yeah,
Yeah.
power.
Yeah.
And that's all the military. Military. I'm not saying military is bad, right? I'm saying
It's not.
the way it's
It's
used
not.
is bad.
Not even
But
necessarily.
the way it's used to gain power or to hold power or to impose power over others is not good. Yeah, I think that you're right. That's probably our biggest downside as a country is that we think we're too big for our britches. Does that make sense?
It does.
Like we think we're number one. We think we're more powerful than we really are, and that's all we're after. All we're after is that power. But the power doesn't bring happiness. Power over things doesn't bring you any happiness. So I think we were maybe going after the wrong thing. I don't even know how that would have gotten started. When we started as a country a couple hundred years ago, we weren't seeking power. We were seeking freedom and independence, right? Which is what you said. Like, you guys view America as like you can be free there, right? Well, yeah, you can, but we're not focused on the freedom. We're focused on this entertainment industry and all these other things you're talking about. We've like lost focus.
That's true.
Power.
But think about it in this perspective too. Is human nature, especially when it comes to war, is kill your neighbor before they come kill you. We're living the most peaceful time of human society right now. Even though it's still pretty turbulent, this is the most peaceful it's ever been. And we are still all here united under this idea of the United States of America. We might not necessarily trust one another or stand for the national anthem, all that kind of stuff aside, but at the end of the day, we're in America, so we trust us. But you don't trust the countries you're not supposed to trust, the people that are so different from us, or portrayed as so different from us. Obviously the extremist Muslims like ISIS, Al Qaeda, all that, they are nuts. They are crazy. They do need to be stopped. But you think that there's no Christian branches out in the world doing the same kind of terroristic attacks? There are.
Mm-hmm.
And they're perceived as such too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are bad people in this world. So you don't put it on nationality, but the thing is, think about it this way, is when it comes to the military is, who would you rather have power? Us or someone else?
But why does there have to be one that has more power than the other?
There doesn't have to be, but people
I
overall
understand
are very
that's how it
panicked.
is currently.
Yeah. Because we don't realize there's enough
Right.
resources for everyone to share,
Yeah,
and then some.
Well, but there are.
There absolutely is, but everyone thinks that everything is so scarce.
Right. Yeah, we have that scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
There's not going to be enough. Yeah, it just, I don't know. I think from a distance, looking at our pursuit for power, I mean, it just, it doesn't ring very well, because I think of, like, some of the other civilizations at their peak, you know, the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians, like, they got power hungry, they got greedy, they started to do things like Napoleon.
Power's very expensive to maintain.
That's true, and that's probably why we spend so much unnecessary money in this country, is because we're trying to maintain that power. But again, we're going after the wrong thing, because power corrupts, and power is the downfall of all these other civilizations before us. We're not learning anything from history.
No, we just keep doing the same thing over
Right,
and over.
yeah,
We expect different results.
Exactly. We're like, no, we're America. We're going to do the same thing that all these other countries did, but we're doing it differently, so we will be just fine. But no, it's going to collapse. You know, it should have collapsed with the banks before in 2008. That should have been our big wake-up call, when everything, our whole economy was supposed to collapse, and then we have, you know, a national disaster because everyone's out of a home, which should have happened and would have snapped us out of this cycle. But
Homes
no,
are
we
still
rest.
incredibly expensive.
Oh yeah, well
That's kind of crazy.
yeah, well the bubble.
How few people own homes because of that, and they're still so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
That's weird. Oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. That's actually a good time for a quick commercial break. So we'll be right back.
Is that a marijuana plant?
No,
No.
no.
What is that for a plant?
Yeah,
I
we
used
can
to
do-
live in Austria by the mountains 10 years.
Oh, nice. All right, so we're gonna get. All right, so we're back here for section 2, and you said you had a question for me, a personal question, and I said that's a perfect question for the podcast. Let's go ahead and ask again.
Yes, so some years ago I started to meditate, and then I was reading about meditation experience, and I would like to know, I think because we are in Colorado, you're smoking sometimes, so I don't really want to smoke, but this would be a reason I would try. I would like to know what's different to meditate, if you're high or just if you're not high.
So I think that's a great question.
I do.
A lot of people probably ask themselves that question too. And so I'll talk first about just my experience, and talking mostly about cannabis, about weed, because you can be high on all sorts of things, and you can meditate on all sorts of different substances too. So for instance, I mean, I had another podcast, I think, where I was talking to somebody about meditating while on LSD or on mushrooms or on something like that. And that's a whole different thing. But for me, like, meditating when I'm totally clear-headed, totally sober, nothing in my system, it has a sharpness to it. I don't know how to put it, like, because my meditations will vary. Sometimes I'll get images, sometimes it'll just be feelings, sometimes it'll be energy, sometimes it will be just awareness of my breath and like what the feelings are in my body. Sometimes like my heartbeat will just be like boom, boom, and that's all I can concentrate on, right? So depending on whatever comes up, if I'm totally sober in the moment, everything seems sharper. So the edges are a little sharper, but my attention can also get too focused in on one thing in particular because of the sharpness, right? Like I might have my eyes closed and I'll get a vision of a memory and it'll be really clear, but my attention will go into it so much that I will get lost in the distraction of the memory instead of just going back and focusing on nothing. So that's an issue sometimes. However, I feel like when I've been sober sometimes in really deep meditation states, I can get myself high with no drugs at all, right? So then all of a sudden I'll feel total bliss. I can get to places where it'll feel like I'm on ecstasy or something, but I'm not on anything. Or like I will have the most psychedelic hallucinations and things and travel to other places and talk to other beings in other dimensions. And I've astral projected, so I felt like my spirit has like left my body and I've traveled around before. So in sober states, I can create those altered states, right? And there's nothing inherently wrong with a drug. A drug is a drug is a drug. A drug causes an altered state away from normal mind, right? Same with pills you take, right? All it does, it changes your mind away from what is normal. Whether that means less pain or more energy with Ritalin or whatever. So when I meditate, when I'm high on cannabis, the edges are a little fuzzier. So I may see the same memory, but it'll be not in as much detail. And that can be good and bad, right? It can be good if I'm trying not to get distracted by images or sounds, and I can just like kind of zone out and zone. As I zone out, I zone into just focusing on nothing, right? When you smoke weed, you kind of are just okay with not doing anything and not thinking anything in the moment. When you're not on cannabis, if that happens, you don't smoke cannabis, but most people, when they reach this point just throughout your day where your mind just stops and it goes blank, most people are like, oh God, I gotta do something, something's wrong, right? Because nothing's happening. That's what we want. That's right. That's getting away from the stress. All the stress is up here. When you calm your mind, all that stress melts away. And so when you're high on cannabis, it makes everything a little less fuzzy. So you're less focused on any particular distraction that comes around. It's all just kind of fuzzy noise in the background, and it makes it easier for me to be able to just really hone in and focus on what I'm really trying to pay attention to, whether it's my breath or most of the time, actually most of my meditations, I'm just trying to be present with whatever is happening in my mind. So I don't know if you remember from college days, but sometimes when you smoke weed, you get a little paranoid. You get a little like, yeah. And it's not because there's anything weird going on, but it's because you're up here in your thoughts too much, right? Yeah. And you start having weird thoughts. Not weird, but you start paying more attention to like, oh, why are we alive? What is this thing? You know, why am I in this body? I wonder what people think about me, those kind of thoughts. And if you get caught in those loops, then you start to like freak out a little bit, right? Because you're self-conscious.
I can verify, yes.
Yeah, but sometimes when you smoke weed, all that just goes away too. Like when I smoke, I almost smoke weed every time I do jiu-jitsu, when I'm training, almost every day. Every time I go lift weights, every time I go for a run, I'll smoke a little weed right before, because it allows me to just tune out all the BS from the day and really be in the activity that I'm doing, right? So then my mind is not spinning about work, or it's not thinking about my relationship, it's not thinking about what I'm going to do after meditation, it's not thinking about what I just ate and why my belly's grumbling, It just fogs all that, all the noise. And it's kind of like just putting on these headphones, just like smoke some weed, just be like, now I can't hear any of that distraction. So that's what it does for me. But it also makes activities more meditative for me. So I'll smoke before I go for a run, like I said. And I'll feel like I'm meditating the whole time I'm running, because my mind will just be clear. Or snowboarding, right?
Oh, yeah.
At the top of the mountain, you smoke a little weed, and then the whole time you're going down the mountain, you're not thinking about anything. You're just right there, and you're in the zone. And it's like a meditation, because you're totally present and you're in nature, and it's so beautiful. So I think cannabis helps enhance that piece. Like, it really puts you in that moment. But it can also throw you for a spin sometimes if you get stuck on the thoughts that you start having, right? But that's why we practice, right? What kind of meditation do you do?
I just a normal listening to mantras and trying to. So I when I was first time trying to meditate, not thinking, it doesn't really works like if you just try first. So you have to repeat something, and you after forget everything. You just stuck on the repeating. So that's why I was listening to mantras and trying to chanting the mantras. So that's how. But for me, it's very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. When they
Very.
say stop thinking,
Yeah, it
like,
doesn't really
it doesn't
answer.
work.
Yeah. I can still sit like a stone. When I first time, I was like, but you know what's also interesting? Like, I used to have a friend, and he was Hindi, so that's how I got there. And he said, okay, let's meditate. And I said, I never did. I don't know how to do that. And the first time we did sit 20 minutes, I said, I can't do that. There's no way that I can still sit 20 minutes.
Right, you start freaking out, right?
Yeah, but you know what was interesting? I could do that. I wasn't meditating, but I could still sit still. He couldn't. He was meditating, but he was more moving much more. And he said, wow, you are really like a stone. And I said, yeah, I grew up in the communism. I can control my body, but not really my mind. But what's interesting, so we went to India, and he said, we're going for a 1 hour meditation. I said, no way, I can't even sit or not going to the bathroom 1 hour. I'm a woman. And he said, no, you can do that. And I said, I can't believe this. So, but there is not a lot of people. So, and there come the guru, and we started to meditate, and I started as well. And you believe it or not, how he said, you are not alone. You can do that. And it's when they said, I was like, no way, this was an hour. And they said, this was an hour. And I was like, wow, it's really true. When more people meditate together, and especially if you meditate with someone who meditate long time, you can do it much easier, and you can really come deeper. So you can really connect. It's really much deeper and easier, and it is different. So it was really a big experience to meditate with a lot of people. And
so when you're meditating, is your goal to clear your mind of everything?
Yeah, not thinking.
So that sounds more like Zen meditation from Japan, right? Where you're just trying, so it's also called like no mind, just clear it all out there, which is it's a great technique. But like your mind is active throughout the day, right? It's always, even when you're sleeping, right? It's always going. So I think it's the nature of the mind to just work. Even if you're not intentionally thinking about something, it's always doing something in the background. There's always something turning back there. There's always associations being made. So there's so many different types of meditation too. I love it. Like one of my favorite ones is observer mind meditation, where you, instead of trying to stop all the mental chatter, you let it just go. You let it go free, but you remove yourself from the chatter. So instead of like in our everyday, like we're engaging with our thoughts, we're asking ourselves questions, but if you just like took your perspective down there and just pulled it up here, so now you're just watching everything happen as it's unfolding, but you're not interacting with it.
I didn't know there was a name. I didn't know there was a name for the kind of thing that I do. That's my thing is I'll just let the thoughts go. I just won't dwell on any of them. I'll just be like, just let them go. Just think about it and just move on and just let them go. So
yeah, and then there's different layers. So there's being up here and just letting the mind go and just letting it run and run and run, and then you can start to look at the thoughts happening as they're happening and see patterns in your thinking, and you can start to see like every time something like this happens, I automatically think this, right? So then you get to another level, and that's called like metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. Right? So now you're thinking about, why do I think this way about these things? Why do I hold these beliefs? Why are these my values? How am I conditioned and programmed by my country or by my leaders or whoever, by my friends? And then, there's even more levels. I've met monks in Thailand that have, they just let their mind go all during the day, but they only engage with like 5 thoughts all day long. but they really go deep with those thoughts. So they'll just watch their mind go, and they'll be like, oh, now that's a thought that I really want to look into. And then they'll spend like the next 3-4 hours just focusing and meditating like mantra almost on that one thought. And the depth of information that comes, it's like getting a direct connection, like a straight download. I love the mantra work too, because it's a great way to turn off your own chatter, right? Because if you just let the mind go, it's gonna go. But if you give it a job, if you tell it one thing to focus on and just keep focusing on it, it will do only that thing, which is so great, because you can just do a mantra, like even the Om mantra, like just Om, Om, like long. If you only focus on that, all other thought is going to leave your mind.
Exactly.
All other concept of time, of space, you are only going to be that chant in that moment. And it's I don't know, how do you feel like when you're doing it? Because I always feel like electrified, like I'm floating and charged up.
So to me was when the first mantra I learned from my friend and said, you should always teach me a first mantra. So, but I just realized I had my own mantra all of my life. Mm-hmm. I used to always say in my mind, always, I'm happy and beautiful. I'm happy and beautiful. I used to say that too. This is a kind of mantra, because Absolutely. You just say the same, repeat and repeat. And I just realized I did all of my life. Like, I don't know, from the teenagerhood, I start to say that always. Mm. And then, like, now I still, even if I'm not meet with this community, I'm not going to them anymore because I'm not there, but I still say that mantra. And to me also is very good to meditate if I just focus on my breathe. Mm-hmm. Like, and this also, just breathe very deep, and this also helped me. But now a long time I didn't meditate, and I really was missing it now. I was feel like I should start again.
Yeah, so the focus on the breathing is a great place for anybody to start with meditation. It's the same thing. We're doing the same thing over and over, but in different ways. You're giving your mind one task to focus on, and that's it. Just do that. So with the focus on the breath, just focus on the breath.
Exactly.
Any thoughts come up, any smells come across your nose, I don't care. Just focus on the breath, right? Like, if you're sitting there focusing on the breath and, you know, your dog walks by and licks your face, you're going to feel that, and it's going to distract you. But don't let your thoughts just, like, spin off. Get back on what you're trying to focus on, right? Same with yours.
But I'll say, I mean, that's actually an interesting point. You said get your mind back on track, on to the thoughts you want to focus on. Right. So
the ones that are going to help you the most.
But here, that's the question is what's going to help you the most? I think reasonably speaking, every single person on this planet has or will or is currently going through a state of being overwhelmed. Just being.
Life is pretty crazy.
Like, yeah, well, I mean, there's so much in your life you want to fix it, and you want to fix it all right now. And sure, they're important to you, but you got to take them one piece at a time. So it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And right now, I've been good for a while, but I'm sure it'll happen again. There will be a whole bunch of things in my life that I'll feel like I let go from my control, things that I wasn't staying conscious on. And then one day I'll come back to it, and I'll just be paralyzed, not knowing what to do. And with practice, with meditation, I'm not going to say I sit around and I meditate, because I really don't. I get into moments where, like, I feel like it's beneficial, and I'll do it when I guess it's convenient. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but
it's better than nothing.
But I do try to stay on a very conscious level in my regular day-to-day life, and try to look at things from a more objective stance on it. In college, when we knew each other, I was a nervous wreck. Like, a lot of times.
You're a pretty nervous guy. Dude, we would go out on the town, like, almost every night of the week. It was terrible. We were
in college.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were freshmen, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I remember you being, pretty nervous. Not around us, of course.
No,
around us, you opened up a lot more. But, like, when we would go out, you'd either be, a little sheltered, or you'd be over humorous, like, to
very grandiose with it. Like I would go one of the either. I'm still kind of in that zone, to be honest. I'm getting better at it, but it's a matter of conscious effort.
Right. That's the key, is like, as long as you're trying to make effort and trying to figure out what's going on in your own mind and your own life, I think that's the best you can do, right? None of us are going to be perfect at any of this stuff.
Yeah.
We don't know any of it. But, yeah, I don't, I haven't seen you in 10 years, but right away when I saw you tonight at dinner and gave you a big hug, I did not get that same feeling from you, like, oh, this is the same nervous Neil from before. I don't get that sense from you. I can tell that you've done a lot of, like, growing and changing over the last 10 years, when you've lived all over the place. And we haven't seen each other, but we still get back together and we connect. Like you said, we pick up where we left off, but I've changed a lot since then. You've changed a lot since then. We both gotten married since then. It's pretty awesome. So, yeah, I just want to say thank you for being here and being a part of this, and sharing your guys' thoughts on all this stuff. So your meditation is more formal, right? Do you do it daily?
No, I'm very, how I said, no, it is really also like that. Is nobody around me who do that lifestyle, and I lost it as well. Mm-hmm. But I realize I miss it, and I want to start it again, because it's bring a peace in your life, and I'm sure I need it. It's because it's a different level, how you think and how you see the world, what's important and what's not.
Right, and you're talking about being overwhelmed too. Sometimes being overwhelmed is like focusing too much on the things that aren't important.
Yeah, but I learned that in India. Like, don't, for example, we just was talk about today, he was driving and I said, so somebody heard you get mad about that person. That's just affect you because the person don't feel what you feel. If you get angry, this is just bad for you, not for the other person. So try not to touch to everything, not touch to every feeling. Don't give too much feeling what is not important.
Right. I say don't give too much feeling, but I don't think you should deny part of your human nature. One of the things actually that I think you remember about me was I was very passive. Like I had a lot of anger, but I would just keep it internalized.
Yeah, we all had a lot of anger. I expressed mine more externally.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to figure out how to vent it. So even when it comes to what I was just talking about, is like I don't mind having a little burst of anger. It's not like I'm getting into this burst of anger where I red out and I'm going to do something horrible. I might just get angry, but there it is. This is the reality, and now it is gone. Like, and move on from that. Because it was unhealthy for me to keep all of that in. So I don't have a problem with just letting it go. Like, that's just me actually being more in the moment, personally. And everyone reacts differently, because everyone is different. So I might get mad about something very stupid, which is absolutely true.
But that's what I see also. You was asked about how I see Americans. Americans get angrier and more louder and more than Europeans. Like, and the word, like the F word, you guys using so normal.
Yeah, it's.
What is for us is you are
it's not even
not
a bad
intelligent.
Thing
yeah, but for us, if you use it, you are not intelligent. You are a dumb person if you use that word, like the F word, all the time. And here is like, it's fashion. It's like cool.
Right. It's cool. I don't.
It's cool. Now we're coming back to an earlier topic, talking about what kind of people are leading the future.
But I feel terrible when I curse. I hardly ever curse. I curse around more people that are cursing at me, just to try and like have them understand what I'm saying sometimes. But very rarely in my everyday language do I curse, and it actually makes me feel bad inside when I do. Like squeeze one of those words out, Sometimes it can be used for effect, right? But I can see what you're saying. Like here in American culture, it's the cool thing to do. It's in all the music. It's in all the movies. All those heroes are using that kind of language.
But typically, in those things, they are pretty... I would say a lot of the media nowadays really, really, really caters to the lowest common denominator.
What do you mean?
It's the most broad audience possible.
Oh yeah, and
like,
most media is only written at like an 8th grade level too.
The lowest common denominator.
Most people can only read at that level.
Yeah, and in 8th grade is when you start using all the swear words like regularly because you're learning them and you're cool. It's kind of a rite of passage here, but we're just dumbing it down. People are choosing to be ignorant. People choose to. They don't have to listen to all this stuff, but they choose to. God, what's a good example right now is most rap music. Actually, most rap music, I think, overall has pretty negative imagery. Not all of it, but a lot of it is more or less to keep blackface stereotypes alive. I actually wrote a paper on that in college. It was a study, it was critical hip-hop studies, and everyone thought it was a blow-off class, but it was with Dr. Rabaka. I don't know if you remember him. Very well-respected Africana professor. Several books, and we got to write a paper about what we learned in the class, and I was talking about how the mainstream rap industry is around to keep stereotypes alive. Like when you think about Nicki Minaj or Cardi B right now.
Right, so it's the media, I believe, is to keep that division alive.
Yeah, but that's because it's easier to control an entire population if
When
you
they're
keep them divided.
Yeah.
Because if you're different than me, but I trust overall whoever this is, then now this person has control over both of us by not having us team up against it.
Right.
So, that's just... But coming back to the whole swearing thing, I swear a lot at work. I don't think I've sworn at all since I've been on this show. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to listen to it again, but...
Does he swear around you? Does he swear like a sailor around you?
I probably do. No, I legitimately probably do. But now that I'm on vacation... It's just not, just away from the environment because it is a very casual thing. You hear it all day.
Oh, yeah, it's just part of the language.
Yeah, it's just part of the language. That's how you talk to each other. And that's just how everyone talks to everyone, so...
Not really. I did meet with some of them who never used that word in America.
No, I'm not talking about... I'm talking about me at work, in the military. Not everyone is smart in the military, believe it or not.
Yeah, sure.
That's not everyone.
Let's just be honest. Most people... George Carlin said it the best. Think of your average American. Pretty stupid, right?
Well, like I said, average American has an 8th grade reading level.
Yeah. But that means that half the country is dumber than that person.
Yeah, totally.
And that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I work with I work with very good people. Like they might not all of them might not necessarily be the smartest people, but most every single one of them has a good heart.
Yeah, you don't have to be smart to have a good heart.
Yeah, and they're trying to do the right things.
Oh, I wanted to ask this question on the air because I brought it up at dinner tonight, and I want to hear your guys' point of view. You said it was a really good question. So, you're a vegetarian, right? So, and I said, I hope you love dogs because you're going to come over and you're going to meet my dogs. And you're like, I'm a vegetarian. I love all animals. So then I thought, like, are there vegetarians out there that just hate all animals? I can imagine someone being like, I'm not going to eat any animals because I don't even want to touch them. I don't want them touching my mouth. I hate all animals. Right? Like most of the
funny.
Yeah, most of the time.
I never heard.
Yeah, most of the time people go vegan or vegetarian because they love animals.
Right?
But my question was what I was thinking before. Because I'm traveling a lot and I never have been scared, but I realized it's so much aggressive people in America and I start to be scared. I was like, who can I trust? But I was like, if somebody is vegetarian, it's not gonna hurt me. But
yeah. Yeah, true.
It's like,
Yeah,
must be
if
a
I'm
bad-
out on the street and I meet a vegetarian, like I'm not worried about you, bro.
Because
You're not gonna do anything to me that I
But-
can't handle.
it's
Are you
not
sure?
true. No, it's
no,
not.
I feel like
I'm
that's.
not.
No, it's
I feel
not.
like
There's a
they're-
couple fighters out
Yeah.
there that
No,
would
it's
whoop
actually
my ass.
Yeah.
I learned it's not true. The vegetarian is also, even they would not hurt the animal, but
They don't
won't
mind
hurt the
hurting
human.
people.
Yeah. But what something I want to tell you, in South Africa, they play the Americans movies, but when you guys use that word, it's always a peace. They don't let it to get in the television.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was in Australia, but I think this was in South Africa. They have the American movie, but when you say they always a peace. So they don't let the children grow up with it.
Mm-hmm.
They still play the movies, but not that words.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, it should change. And eventually some words are dying out of culture and some...
You're always gonna have your
You're always
taboo
gonna have
words.
some,
It's. I mean, I could make up. What was there an episode of Recess? Remember the cartoon?
Mm-mm.
It's an old cartoon. I'm positive someone listening in right now remembers the show Recess, and one of the characters said that really whomps.
Mm-hmm.
Just a made up word. So if you just
I bet
you
it's a bad
give
word.
how I mean, I
It
don't
will
think it's
be.
a bad word.
It will be.
But if you perceive it as such, if you give a word that kind of power, because that's kind of the biggest illusion is you're giving a word power.
Mm-hmm.
And the word's not necessarily as important as the thought. It doesn't matter what the words you use to. It's
Right,
more
it's
of
the
the
intent behind it.
intention. Yeah, the intention behind it.
Right.
So
Like I can say, like, fuck yeah. Like
And that's-
something great
yeah.
happened, or I could be like, fuck you.
and the
Right?
intention,
Like,
yeah,
the intention
and
is
the way that it
terrible.
works, yeah, and
Totally.
And
No,
that's
see, it just
completely
felt
different.
bad. Like when I just said that, it felt like this tension in my chest. Like I don't like saying that.
yeah, but isn't that part of this whole thing about consciousness is that if you pay attention to the way you are reacting to the world around you,
Right.
and you are trying to work into a different way. Now, sometimes it helps having a companion in your life, like my beautiful wife here
Mm-hmm.
does make me want, not for her, necessarily just her, but I want to be a better person when I'm with her. And if she's pointing out some of my shortcomings, I could get really defensive about it, or I could just accept that and be like, you know what, or put some thought into it and be like, she's right.
Mm-hmm.
Like being conscious about it. So if you realize that swearing gives you a bad effect, like it just makes you feel bad, then why would you want to do that to yourself?
Right.
Why would you want to make yourself feel bad? And it's about paying attention to how you're reacting to things. Talking about your diet, you've tried all the diets, or not all the diets, but
I tried quite all of them.
you tried
Like
quite
in-
all of them, and you
like in
pay
16
attention.
years?
Yeah, and you pay
Yeah.
attention to
Like how you feel.
how are you being affected, and if you actually start critically analyzing the way that you feel about interactions and experiences, then you can start figuring out which ones are most beneficial to your life. One of the things I've been thinking about recently too is the things that we like.
Hmm.
Do you really like the things that you like? Do you like them because you like them, or do you like them because society has told you to like those things?
Yep.
And I see this beautiful Lamborghini every day I drive home, right? And I don't know the guy that drives it, but that's actually the whole thing that got me onto the idea of asking, does that guy living in Key West, Florida, where the highest speed limit until you get to Miami is 55 miles per hour, which you're probably never going to hit because there's someone that's going to be going 35 miles per hour the entire way looking at how beautiful the Keys are. Does that person love the Lamborghini that he owns because he loves the manufacturing of it, the capabilities of it, how nice it feels, all the things that went into it, or does he just have enough money to have that, and society says if you have a Lamborghini, then you're balling.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not making any judgments on this person, but it was the thing that got me questioning the things that I have in my life. Why do I have this in my life? Do I actually enjoy this, or am I doing this because I'm supposed to enjoy this?
Right. Is this action intentional or is this action habitual?
Yeah.
You know, and what's creating the habit?
Yeah.
Is it the messages? Again, the diet you're taking in, the messages, the message diet you're taking in every day, who you hang out with is who you
It's
It's
become.
very
That's-
important.
That's part of your
Yeah.
diet,
It's
right?
huge.
The things you're reading, the things you're consuming with your mind are way more important than the things you're consuming with your body. I mean, both are really important, but
Well, you're going to consume things with the body based off of what your mind is thinking. You don't.
that's true too. It originates in the mind. You don't make healthy choices for your body unless you are making healthy choices for
This
mind
up
here,
first.
this mind up here
Yeah.
as well.
Like, do you need McDonald's or do you need sustenance?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking on McDonald's on this one either. I'm just saying, for example, is that case is you find yourself being hungry and you have the choice to eat healthier, smaller, more holistic food, or you can go get something quick, easy, and not so good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a conscious choice that you're gonna make. So you have to bat it around in your head real quick. Like, am I hungry? And if so, what's available?
Right, you and I were talking about again at dinner too. Like, if you get hungry enough, you'll eat pretty much anything.
Yeah.
I
That's
think.
true. That's
Yeah.
what I say.
Like we were
Because
saying, yeah.
I was fasting now because I did read a lot in New Zealand, and I started the diet what works for me. Perfect.
Mhm.
And this is so everything works in America. They want to sell something, so they lie to you because they can sell. And what works for me is not to sell. This is fasting. You don't want to making money because you sell nothing.
Right.
But that's what works for me perfectly. And it was, I wasn't eating 23 hours, and I made a hot water, salt, and apple cider vinegar a little bit, and I was drinking. My friend called me from Hungary. What are you doing? Oh, because hurt, I eating or something. I said, I just drinking hot water, apple cider vinegar, and salt. And she, oh my God, that's disgusting. And I say, after 23 hours, believe me, it tastes me like a soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was taste me. It was like, oh my God, it's a soup. Everything is like yesterday we was eating. The food was horrible, but I said I'm hungry. I eat anything. But the food was really so bad. They should pay me. I was eat, and it was really bad. But when I'm hungry, everything is taste. That is really like how is your level about hunger?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you and I were saying too. Like, I mean, if it gets bad enough, you gotta eat bugs. You gotta eat.
Dude, I would.
Yep, you gotta eat people.
I
Yeah,
would.
that's
Like,
And,
if you're- if you're
I
surviving,
will 100% say that, and I will
Yeah.
still agree to that. If
you gotta eat
I'm
them.
in a survival situation, now I'm not going to kill the person that I'm trying to survive with unless they try killing me, obviously. But like, if it was you and I, for example,
Yeah.
and I died,
Oh, I'd eat the shit out of you.
and do you think, like right now, I'm making a pact with you. This is a pact right here. If we're on vacation,
Oh yeah,
and I die,
that's
why would I want you to die too? Just eat the sustenance that's left on me.
Right.
Like, live.
Yep.
Like I'm already gone.
Right.
Why should you have to go
Consciousness
too?
is somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's gone. But you also said, you were telling my wife before the show, like, in your belief system, when you eat meat, you're also eating like a piece of the animal's soul.
Yeah,
part of their
they
mind.
thinking, they mind.
Right, and that I believe there's some truth to that because our mind is interconnected with all the cells in our body. Even when we die, there's still it's got to be some kind of resonant
Exactly.
memory, something left behind. And so, I mean, yeah, that's great. And I still think it's okay to eat meat even with that perspective because that's why we give thanks, to some of the meat. Like if I'm eating like a steak, I'll be like, I will think in my mind, I almost have this meditative moment where I'll be like, thank you for sacrificing yourself so that I can be strong and keep living, and I will, I'll honor you and take you in. And a lot of the Native American traditions that I take part in the teepee ceremonies, we eat elk, and we literally are taking in the elk's soul and spirit into us for strength and sustenance, and we take in the soul of the corn because in a lot of traditions they believe that plants have souls too. That corn and salad and all that stuff has a soul too. Plants have a soul as well. And yeah, you're taking in a piece of that.
Yeah, it's become your energy. So it's
Yeah.
very important what you touch, what you eat. And we lost it so much because I believe before people was eating once or twice a day. And this was more like a ceremony. Family did sit together and they really was taking the meal different than now. We just running, we buy something, we taste something, but we don't really realize this is give us life. But how you said, I'm vegetarian, but so I believe the meat, if you if the animal eat grass, it's good for you. But this is not what the most people are eating, because the animals now, cows eating corn, was not even, this is GMO, hundreds of years. This is not real food. So this animal is not healthy for you. And this animal, when they even in the cage, so this animal don't have the same mind like a healthy animal. That's how I see.
Right. Well, just like human beings too. If you put a human being in a cage, in a jail, their mind is not going to be the same as
so
someone outside of the jail.
It's a different which kind of meat do you eat. Some kind of meat is healthy, fed grass animals or milk or cheese, but that's not what usually people eat.
Right. Mostly it's like farm produced.
Yeah, and they never did see a grass ever. These animals don't see grass never.
Right. Some chickens are born and live their whole life without a head. You know, and they're just manufactured for the meat.
Yeah,
over and over.
So this is not a good meat at all.
It's not a good practice.
Yeah, so I don't think this is good to take to your body, part of your body. Not for me, definitely not. Maybe good for somebody else, but I feel it's not good for me. It's not for me.
I mean, I think that we should have a more responsible approach to the way that we do the meat industry. Like,
yeah, for sure.
I do believe that we're omnivores. With the way that the food industry works now is that I do feel like we can sustain vegetarian and vegan lifestyles. I mean, I don't think that if the food supply were to go back to non-existent, I don't think that would be very easily obtainable for most humans to survive on
like
that.
If we had like another dust bowl or something and we're unable to farm as much. I mean, we'd import a ton of stuff, but you bring up a good point because, yeah, I'm sorry, you had something.
So one more. Yeah. We always say that so you know how much water need a cow, how much you destroy the world about that, just you have a piece of meat in your
I read
plate every day.
It's like,
you know, this is worse than the
1,000
cars.
liters per
pound it's worse than the cars or flying.
Yeah.
So if you eat meat and even that, a lot of, I was take care of my friend Chad, and we was grocery store, and he always asked me, why don't you eat this and this, and I say, because of that. And one day he asked me, oh Kamilla, can I buy a milk? And I say, if we buy a milk, the cow baby don't drink a milk because we drink it, we humans, because the cow baby one day maybe with the mother, and after they get a powder, because the human can have a cheese and the milk. And he's 9 years old, and he said, oh, I don't want to drink it. So if you explain to the children, not even the children, like also growing people, what you're doing, they will think about it. Do I have a right to take from the little animal the milk? And they don't have a contact with the mother because they separate it just because you want your cheese on your pizza.
Sure.
So think about it. It's like, I don't know. I think we doing violence to consume too much milk and too much meat. It's a violence in my eyes, because it's a violence.
Well, and too, when they're harvesting vegetables, a lot of the time with the tractors and things that they use, they kill a lot of little animals with the tractors while they're harvesting the vegetables. So I mean, there's still a lot of like I think it's the practices that we're using.
It's the mass production.
The mass production, the factories, the things like that even with a vegetarian diet in this country, I mean, you're still contributing to the death of many millions of animals every single day just because of the manufacturing process. It's not because you're like slaughtering it like you do a cattle or something. But I think a lot of what the problem is like a lack of respect on our part. Like, we're not respecting the plant life. We're not respecting animal life. I'm fine with if you're vegetarian or vegan because you have a particular belief system that it makes you feel better when you follow that. I'm also fine with you if you eat meat too, but there still needs to be respect in there. Like the way we're doing it right now is very disrespectful. Like I said, exactly. Breeding chickens and keeping them all in cages and, keeping your animals in unsanitary and unsafe and disease-filled, pens and stuff. That's not respectful to the animal. Whereas, if you own a ranch, you own a farm, and you love your animals and you take very good care of them, and you go out there and you talk to them and you pet them, and then you slaughter one of them to feed your family or to help feed. Like, I love that. So much love went into that animal, and now the animal is providing all that love back to you in their death to keep you and your family alive. You know, it's a cycle. They're constantly doing that.
So you're talking about the farmer that's raising the livestock with love, and then that animal is going to provide their family with sustenance. I think what's really sad is that the way that our meat industry works, where we're producing as much, is how much meat, I don't know the number obviously, but how much meat in this country gets thrown out every day from the grocery store.
Caroline, I see this all the time, and she's in the food industry. She studying, and we waste so much food in this country. Like I've worked in restaurants. You throw out so many dozens of pounds of food every night. We have plenty of food to feed everyone on the planet, but we throw away almost 50% of our food here in this country. Whereas and some places have made it illegal
France,
now.
France, they have to give, like in the grocery stores.
Yeah,
they can't throw out that food.
But here in this country, some cities make it illegal.
It is.
Say that restaurants and grocery stores cannot give food to the homeless because if they get sick, then they can sue the company. Right? It's such a big waste. Like let them eat it, right?
Exactly.
It has to be eaten.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you pay for it and you die, that's fine. But if you're given it, and you die, well, that's a lawsuit. That doesn't make sense to me, but
we could go down a rabbit hole on that one.
We could, but I think it all kind of comes back to this whole idea of speaking with your wallets. Here in Colorado, there are a lot of farm co-ops. You can go in on raising a cow.
We actually did that.
Yeah,
we paid a couple $100 and we got a ton of meat. This cow, and it was slaughtered in a very respectful way. It lived out a long life on open pastures, no cages, no nothing, like very happy, right? And there's good studies to show too that if the animal had good living conditions or not, it affects the
quality of the meat.
The quality of the meat, as well as like their mind state when they died. The hunters talk about this, like if you kill an animal when they're in a really high stress,
it releases a lot of adrenaline.
Adrenaline state, then the meat goes bad. Whereas the trick is to sneak up on them and kill them, when they're relaxed. Yeah. And that way it doesn't taint the meat, and it's much more supple and not filled with all these stress hormones and chemicals. There's also good studies on if you're preparing or cooking food for someone else, and if you do it with love, then that person absorbs more nutrients than if you're cooking. You're like, screw this person, they're making me cook for them every day and blah blah blah, and then you give them out to them. It's like you're giving tainted food to someone. You're putting
love. That's what I
putting
said.
love into it, or putting bad energy into it. Yeah, exactly. It was more respect. Yeah, and that's a big part of. I don't pray before every meal, but I know people that do, and I think that's a cool thing, right? Because when you're praying, you're kind of pumping it up with good vibes, right? Because who knows where it came from? That chicken was probably kept in a cage its whole life. But
you try not to think about it,
right? But then you're like, okay, let's put some good vibes in it.
Here comes a really stupid thought, though. We're talking about stress level and tainting the meat. Mm-hmm. And think about, like, most animals, we don't really have any natural predator because nothing really wants to eat us. Maybe what if that's the reason why we're such stressed out animals, is that's a self-defense mechanism. We have showed every single other animal on the food chain that you don't want to eat this, it tastes terrible because this thing is stressed. That was a really dumb thought. I just thought it was funny. I'll put it out there.
I think that's right on par with vegans who hate animals.
Right? I love this. I never was think about this. I think it's funny because this is a start, the beginning, how you see which side, how you see, because everybody have right and nobody have right. It's really funny.
I have a good friend who hates vegetables. He hates them. He will not touch them. Like, he will not eat any vegetables. He hates them.
What about food?
He literally hates anything grown, out of the ground. And so that's what it got me thinking about vegetarians that hate animals, because this guy literally hates the concept of vegetables so much that he will not even touch it with his finger. He won't touch it to his tongue. He's like, ew, sick, gross. So I'm wondering if there's vegetarians out there that are like, I hate meat so bad that I'm never gonna touch it. I can't even look at it. Like, get that out
Because
of my
animals
face.
are disgusting.
Because animals are so disgusting, so I'm just going to eat plants. Yeah, it's an interesting thought. But I know you guys got to head back down. It was awesome to have you guys up here.
It was awesome being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys soon. So until next time, folks, yeah, just take there was a lot of great information today, but start questioning your thoughts. Start questioning all those things going on inside your mind. And I think you're going to come to a better solution the more you pay attention to that stuff. So, till next time, this is Shane Lemaster with Conversations with the Mind. Bye. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you, dude. That was actually
that
sounds
fun?
fun.
But to
That was
your
tons of
question, because it's like how you said, if we eat plants is also be hurting, but that's again I say fasting. What's healthy? Eat less. We eat way too much.
Right.
So
Yeah, I do intermittent fasting, or I try and fast.
That's what I did,
16
and
hours a day.
Yeah, but I think it is all.
I
I think
did,
it all
yeah.
depends on who the person is, what your metabolism
yeah.
is like.
It's, I have to
Yeah.
make more. So what works for you? I have to do like I have for me must have minimum 18 hours or 20, 24, but like 2 days fasting and then after normal because it's depend of your age and your race. If you're a woman or a man, it's a different story. And if you're younger, you 16 hours is worse for you, but I need longer because I'm older and I'm a woman.
Oh.
And it's really that's how it works for me. Yeah.
Okay.
So I started
Yeah.
just randomly doing 24-hour fasting. Yeah.
Did you ever really fast at 24
Okay,
hours?
baby. You know what?
Because
Let's, okay, I
fasting it's a
went
zero
not
calorie.
eating food. I had
No,
coffee with cream.
and
Coffee with cream.
that's not fast.
Conversations with the Mind podcast is sponsored by mindops.com. You can find us at www.mind-ops.com. We're an eclectic counseling company providing mental health and mental performance services to individuals, small and large groups, teams, businesses, military, through face-to-face sessions or at a distance using phone or confidential video chat apps. We bring a unique Buddhist Western lens and specialize in general psychotherapy for all mental difficulties, sport and performance psychology for performance enhancement, addiction counseling for any maladaptive or destructive habits, and psychedelic integration therapy to make the most from your visionary medicine work. We are available as well for corporate workshops to address the needs of your employees' wellness.